Danny Flexen, and welcome to this week's edition of SecondsOut ReFLEXions. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know that today is New Year's Eve, and we'll be beckoning in 2019 in the space of, I don't know, if it's 4:30 now, what does that make it? 7.5 hours, if my maths are good, and my maths have never been that great. So what we'll be doing with this week's ReFLEXions, instead of looking back on the weekend just gone, there wasn't a lot going on. All due respect to Floyd Mayweather, I believe was fighting this morning our time in an exhibition bout. We'll be looking back on 2018 as a whole. It won't be comprehensive, I'm not promising that, but we will be picking our British and international fighters of the year. We'll start off with the international fighter of the year, and I'm going to talk about some of the guys who didn't quite make it. Vasyl Lomachenko's won, as excellent as the Ukrainian is. He unified lightweight titles this year. He beat Jose Pedraza to unify 2 belts. Previous to that, he got off the deck to beat Jorge Linares, which was a great win and a really, really good fight to watch as well. So he was unlucky to come up short. I guess when we were really thinking about it, he was favoured to win both of those fights. Obviously will be the case in many Lomachenko fights for years to come, but he was expected to win. He overcame adversity to an extent, obviously, against Linares, having to drag himself off the canvas. But another guy just edged him, and we'll come to him shortly. Canelo Alvarez was another one who didn't quite get there. He got the rematch victory over Gennady Golovkin. Contentious though, you know, I had him just slightly ahead, I think. Actually no, I think I had him slightly ahead in the first fight and had the second one a draw. I'd have to go back and check. But either way, it was contentious. A lot of people still had Golovkin winning. Followed it up with his victory over Rocky Fielding. But again, he was a big favourite in that one. Got the job done well. Good style, good to watch, destructive. But again, not quite enough to get the spoils. Naoya Inouye's another one who came close, if I've pronounced that correctly, probably not. Japanese fighter, moved up to bantamweight with 2 first-round victories at a weight that he hadn't competed at previously. Moved up, stopped belt holder Jamie McDonnell first of all, that was a good win, and in his first fight in the WBSS tournament, did the same to Juan Carlos Payano, who's a rugged competitor, and got absolutely obliterated in a round by Inouye. So you probably think, actually, if you're a hardcore boxing fan, you already know who the winner is, but if not, if you're not quite sure, probably thinking, well, these guys have done amazing things this year, achieved great feats. Who could possibly have done better than them? Well, I give you the Ukrainian mastermind, Alexander Usyk. Who else could it be? What a great year he's had. Not only did he win the World Boxing Super Series tournament, he won his semi-final and his final, both on his opponent's home turf. He beat Maris Briedis out in Latvia early in the year to win his semi-final. That was quite a close one. Briedis has probably pushed him closer than anyone so far in his pro career. And then in the final of WBSS, with the pressure on, I'm not sure what that is, with the pressure on, he absolutely routed Maris Briedis out in Russia. He won every minute of every round, outboxed him, used his footwork really well. Different type of performance than having to kind of gut it out and outwork Maris Briedis, but nonetheless impressive. Really, really good stuff. And then if that wasn't enough, he could have taken the rest of the year off after taking home the Ali Trophy. Nah, none of that for Usyk. He doesn't do days off. He went straight back into camp, fought Tony Bellew towards the end of the year. Bellew fighting at cruiserweight for the first time in a couple of years. Some judges out there picking Bellew to win. His power thought to be the difference for some. And indeed it did look a bit of a sticky one for Usyk early on when Bellew was outboxing him in the first few rounds. But once he got to grips with the pace of the fight and Bellew's style, he gradually took over as Bellew tired. Stopped him. Massive shot to finish it. Really, really impressive performance. His 3rd of the year, and again, on away turf in Britain against Bellew, who's obviously British. I couldn't be more impressed with Usyk than I am. I can't wait to see what he offers to the heavyweight division in 2019. That's going to be really exciting. He could, in fact, challenge Anthony Joshua, perhaps, who's the kingpin at heavyweight currently. And he's one of the first people we can talk about as not quite being fighter of the year in Britain. And that will cause a bit of controversy, as will Tyson Fury not quite being it. And we'll move on to him in a minute. Joshua had a good year. He beat Joseph Parker to add the WBO belt to the 2 heavyweight titles he's already got early in the year. Referee's performance in that fight split the fighters far too much, didn't let them work enough, maybe negated Parker's game plan, but Joshua got the job done, very disciplined display. And then he had to overcome a spirited challenge from Alexander Povetkin later in the year, and that was impressive in its own way too. Joshua was actually under the cosh for parts of that fight. We got to see how he reacted to that, how he, you know, was flustered and then came back to his game plan and eventually got him out of there. That was an exciting performance. 2 really, really good wins, but much the same as Lomachenko we talked about earlier. Joshua was expected to win both of those fights. He was a, healthy favourite going into both of those. Tyson Fury, on the other hand, massively overachieved in his last fight of the year against Deontay Wilder. Most people had him winning, he came away with an unlucky draw. However, most observers thought that Wilder was going to get the job done inside the distance. And as a lot of people will tell you, just being there after all the problems Fury's had, the long layoff, the drug problems, the depression, everything that's gone on, just to get in the ring with Wilder was an achievement. So to then push him all the way, and for many people come up victorious, although he didn't get the win and didn't get the WBC belt, it's an amazing story. And if this was an award for SecondsOut Best British Fighter of the last 5 years, or Best British Fighter Achievement of the last 5 years, Fury would be a lock. But it's not. It's what's achieved in the calendar year 2018. And although the Wilder performance was extraordinary, the two comeback fights were pretty farcical, especially the first one. So we're not going to give it to Fury, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of criticism for that. But it's my choice, SecondsOut choice, and we invite comment below. We love comment, we love discussion and debate here. So who are we going to give it to? It's not Joshua, it's not Fury, it's not, and I'm sorry Joe Gallagher especially, it's not Callum Smith. He was probably the runner-up. He achieved brilliantly to beat George Groves in his second fight of the year, win the World Boxing Super Series tournament, take home the Ali Trophy against the odds. Groves was a favourite, narrow favourite to win that one. Great performance, very disciplined, great game plan from Gallagher in the corner. Smith's never looked as good. He outboxed Groves and then eventually overpowered him. Superb. Got nothing bad to say about Callum Smith. His only other fight of 2018 was against former kickboxer Nicky Holtzen, substitute opponent in the WBSS semi-final. Wasn't anywhere near as impressive as Groves' performance, but he got the job done, did what he had to do. He would have won in any other year. However, there's another guy who's won 2 world title fights this year. He was the underdog in both going in, not just one, underdog in both. Put on outstanding performances to win both those fights. And the second one especially is a fight of the year contender. So for me and for SecondsOut, the British Fighter of the Year for 2018 could be none other than Josh Warrington, the Leeds hero. Not only did he overcome Lee Selby, who the vast majority of experts were picking to outbox him over 12 rounds for the IBF featherweight title earlier this year. That was a great performance in itself. He negated Selby's game plan. He used a combination of smarts, front foot pressure fighting, intelligence, cutting the ring off, and outworking Selby towards the end as Selby tired. Then, instead of taking an easy voluntary, next up, he went straight into a defence against one of the toughest possible available contenders in the division, WBO interim champion, a former two-weight world champion, Carl Frampton. They met on neutral territory, of course, in Manchester, but Frampton, again, was the favourite going into the fight. Thought that he would have too much, most people seem to think that he would have too much experience. That includes me. I'm sure I picked Frampton to win. Thought he had too much experience, a wider skill set, a broader skill set than Warrington. But Warrington turned that on its head, jumped on Frampton early, flustered him, got him out of his game plan, and then after that, steadily kind of boxed at mid-range, came inside when he needed to, basically boxed when he needed to, fought when he needed to, and Frampton just didn't know what to do with him. I think the game plan probably surprised him. I think the youthful exuberance and strength, and not so much size, but certainly determination and work rate was a factor. But so were Warrington's underrated boxing skills, and the strategy provided by his father and trainer Sean O'Hagan can't be underrated. Great performance. Maybe because it's still fresh in the memory, had a bit of an impact on my pick here. But just the fact that he's won 2 massive fights in the same calendar year, both of which he was expected to lose. Both world-class fights as well against world-class fighters. It has to be Josh Warrington for me, British Fighter of the Year. But we want to hear what you think. We want your comments below. Tell us who you think should be British Fighter of the Year for 2018. Tell us who you think should be International Fighter of the Year for 2018 and why. Am I wrong? And if I am, you tell me why I'm wrong. Please try and keep it clean. We don't so much like the foul-mouthed abuse. Not so much about my haircut or my fashion sense, not bothered about that. But if you're going to criticise my choice of Fighter of the Year and make a reasonable comment, don't spoil it by calling me a bleep bleep. Really appreciate it. We'll be back next week with new reflections, first one of the new year. We look forward to that. Don't get too drunk tonight, or if you do, just remember, put some boxing on at 2 in the morning, help you get to sleep. You have no hangover tomorrow, I promise. We'll be back next week, 4:30 PM, and we'll be here with ReFLEXions, 4:30 PM on Thursday. Thank you.